Okay, we begin with breaking news this morning as first reported by our Adrian Wojnarowski. According to sources, the Boston Celtics are trading Kemba Walker and their 2021 first-round pick to OKC for a package that includes Al Horford. As a result, Boston getting financial flexibility, moving off the $73 million owed to Walker, and OKC now has 3 first-round picks in July's draft. All right, beginning with some breaking news once again, we're in for a great show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into First Take. I'm Charlie Arnold, joined by Alan Hahn and Keyshawn Johnson, and we also have Kendrick Perkins on deck because we have this big news that, of course, we need to get your reaction from. So, Kendrick, let's start with you. What is your reaction to the news of Kemba being traded?
Oh, I love it. I see Brad making power moves as soon as he stepped foot in the office. I love it. And here's why. He's telling Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, this is your team. Now you don't have to worry about, oh, can Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, can they play together? Who's going to share the ball? How can you make this work? We don't have to worry about that. And bringing back Al Horford was huge. He's loved by the Celtics fans. He's respected by the organization. But most importantly, he brings value to that team. He stretches the floor. He's a great leader. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum love Big Al. And look, guess what? Here's a teaching point to all the young fellas out there that are auditioning right now for in the G League, in the NBA, that are trying to get jobs in the NBA or trying to stay in the NBA. Moses Brown played the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he had 21 points and 23 rebounds. You know who was coaching at the time? Brad Stevens. So he says, you know what? Let me snag this young fella. He's a good center. He's going to put pressure on Robert Williams to perform. Rob has a history of being injured. I love this move by Brad Stevens. Celtic Nation should be proud. Beantown, stand up.
Okay. On, you want to go next?
Yes, I will, because there's a couple of things on this. You didn't even mention the fact, though, Perk, that for Kemba Walker, it didn't work. Clearly did not work there. They were trying to find somebody that could play that point position. They still continue that search for Kemba. The contract's too big for, obviously, the injury history that he has. And it just, for the Celtics, though, you still got to find yourself a point guard. Where do they go from here?
Well, they really don't. I mean, when you think about it, I understand you just have to find a complementary piece. When you look at the way that this team is structured, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are the guys that primarily dominate the ball. They want the ball in their hands in the open court. They want to get out in transition. So you just want to find a guy that's going to fit well with them, play their role, be able to space the floor, knock down shots. So it's not going to be hard to go out there and find that missing piece.
Keyshawn?
No, I didn't. My bad. Sorry. No, I agree with you. No, I didn't hear. I agree with you, though, Perk, 100% in terms of the deal. When you look at it, Kemba Walker goes over a guy who's been in and out of the lineup, hurt more times than not. Plus, they get an opportunity to dump that salary, get rid of it. Yep. Now, you look at it, you say, okay, they go out there and they get a young dude in Moses Brown, much like you mentioned, a big. Not only do they get Al Horford, they get a young guy who's, by the way, from New York City, went to UCLA, played in the G League for the Portland Trail Blazers, then came over to OKC. He has a young presence, so they're still building for the future while having Smart and Tatum on the floor for them. So I agree with you 100%. The next order of business, though, for Mr. Stevens, is find out, Brad, who your head coach is going to be. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Rick Carlisle? Is it going to be Sam Cassell? But that next order of business before you move on to do anything else with any players, get the head coach in line, because that head coach is going to want to know who you have so he can coach them up.
You might have to ask those players, too, what they think.
Who should it be? Who should the coach be? Kendrick, weigh in on that.
Well, Charlie, you know I'm rolling with Sam Cassell, okay? You talking about a guy that won a championship in Boston. He's well respected by the fan base and the organization. He's won multiple championships with Clutch City. He's played with Hall of Famers and Elijah Warren and Clyde Drexler and Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. He's been a long-time assistant. And so one thing about Sam, and he's also put in that work. He put in that work in the NBA. Sam Cassell was part of a small big three when he was in Milwaukee with Big Dog and Ray Allen. So at the end of the day, you bring in a young coach like that that's going to be able to get the respect from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and also be able to hold them accountable, because what are you going to tell Sam Cassell? What can you tell a three-time champion? Nothing.
All right, well, a lot of moving pieces within the Celtics organization. We will keep you updated as more info comes in on that. But let's move on to a big Game 7 we have coming up, because it was do or die last night for the Bucks, facing elimination to the Nets. And Giannis came out aggressive as ever, dropping 30 points, all without shooting a three-point, mind you, along with 17 rebounds and 3 assists, playing just 7 minutes shy of a full game. The Bucks dominated in every aspect of the game, and Kevin Durant admits it was too much for the trailing Nets to overcome.
We did bounce back, actually. We were down 4 a couple times, and they pushed it up. I mean, they responded after every run we made, and we got to give them credit for that. But I think we were down early. We got ourselves back into the game. We were down like 12-15, and then we got back, cut it. It was 82-77. Then we found a three-point shooter, and that's when they kind of took control. So I felt like we were right there. We just couldn't get over the hump.
I didn't shoot three tonight, but I was just like be aggressive, get downhill, make the right play. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 plays that I was open in the three-point line that I could shoot it, but still, I felt like I could go downhill. What I know is that I enjoy the game when I'm aggressive, when I can get downhill, when I can get my teammates involved, and when I play to my strength. That's when I enjoy the game the most, and that's what I try to do.
Okay, Giannis showing a lot of self-awareness there. Han, what did Giannis prove?
What he proved to me is that he's an opener. He's a tone setter, not a closer. He still needed Chris Middleton to get it done. The Nets did make a push. They weren't great. They did not have the game, obviously, they had in Game 5, where they were just a much different team. Steve Nash admitted that maybe they emptied the tank a little too much in that game. Game 5 had to, and that's fine. Kevin Durant still had a strong game, and there were moments in that second half where you were waiting to see, is this thing going to teeter? Is it going to pull away from the Bucks? So once again, Chris Middleton was the guy making the big shots. Chris Middleton was the one that made sure there would be no comeback on this night. He's your closer. Giannis is not a closer. Doesn't mean he's not a great player. Doesn't mean he's not a great talent. But he's an opener. That's what we're learning about him now. And does that make him more of a 1B than a 1A? Because the 1A is the guy with the ball in his hands late in the game, making sure the other team doesn't get the win on your home floor.
I don't think you take Chris Middleton and make him the 1A of that team. That team is Giannis' team. Giannis started out at bully ball and finished with bully ball. 30.17 boards. He may have not taken the shots down the line at the end of the game, those sort of things, but he certainly got everything going. He played his style of ball. Whenever he plays his style of ball and not sitting back shooting threes, this is what you get out of him. You get a team that, much like he said, he can get everybody else involved. But when he's settling on jump shots as a big, there's no way he's going to advance his team to a championship, period. That's why I like what he did. I went away from here yesterday, but better yet, on the show yesterday, then went away from it thinking the way they win this game is for him to take advantage of the paint. And we clearly saw that. He got 17 boards. It was a typical sort of kind of Giannis game, but it was something different. He answered the call. He was criticized heavily after Game 5, not guarding KD in the end. Now, he didn't guard KD much. He switched off on him a lot in Game 6, but the fact that he was even involved and active in scoring points at the level that he did allowed people like Middleton to do what he did in the end.
Like, come on, Middleton was the one who made the bigger shots. He's the one who plays better at home.
But it doesn't
happen. What Chris Middleton has to do is have a big Game 7 on the road, which he has not played well on the road.
It doesn't happen. It starts with Giannis. If Giannis goes
I said
away,
that. It starts with Giannis, but it doesn't
that's why
end
we
with
gave him
Giannis.
the Supermax deal, to start with him, and if we need somebody else to close, so be it.
Yeah, Dave Winfield was Mr. May, not Mr. October. Reggie Jackson was Mr. October. That's the difference, Perk.
Well, this is how I look at it, okay? One thing about Giannis is that I'm going to give him his props first, all right? He did a great job of attacking the basket, okay? Because every time he shoot a jump and he make one, it was the first time that I saw the opposing bench actually clapping and cheering for him. You know why? Because they wanted him to take more jumpers. And he didn't settle last night. He imposed his will. He got out in transition. He embraced the role of actually being a roll diver, actually attacking in transition. Great job by Budenholzer, spacing the floor, moving Giannis to the center position. But I will say this, what Giannis proved to me last night is that he's a certified Robin. And that's okay, because Chris Middleton is the Batman of that team. And he showed us that last night with the epic performance that he put on last night in a must-win situation. When it mattered the most, Chris Middleton was the one carrying the throne when Brooklyn was making that run, when they cut it into two. The ball was in Chris Middleton's hands. So what Giannis showed me this, long as I don't have to be the guy, the go-to guy when it matters the most. I'm good first, second, and third quarter, but when it comes in the fourth, when it's time for the guys, when it's time for the buckets to get delivered, I don't want the ball. Give it to Chris Middleton and let him do him.
But is something wrong with that, though, Perk? Is something wrong with understanding my role when it comes to nut crunch time? Much like you said, what's your big saying? What's the big saying that you say? You are who you are, and he is who he is. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all.
Yeah. No, and Keith, look, check this out. Don't get so hostile, my brother. All I'm saying is nothing wrong with it. Listen, there's nothing wrong with it at all, okay? But at the end of the day, the question was, what did he prove to us last night? And all I said is that he proved that he's a certified Robin. It's nothing wrong with being Robin, because you obviously could have been other characters in the Batman movie, but you Robin. So that means you was the co-star. There's nothing wrong with it.
He's just the Joker right now.
No,
because
I'm glad he
Perk told me I won the argument.
Though.
That's all that matters.
I'm glad he answered the call from all the criticism. Now Game 7 comes up. They move from Milwaukee to Brooklyn. Can he answer the call again? Because after Game 5, as you know, Perk, people wanted his head. It's like, yo, dude, we gave you all this money. You're the two-time MVP, reigning defensive player, and you're not living up to the bill, but he did in Game 6.
Well, I'm going to say this. He answered the call offensively. I'm still waiting on the former defensive player of the year in him to answer the call, because he tried to trick us and tried to pick up James Harden last night with a pulled hamstring, and James Harden started torching him. So look, I'm still waiting on that. I'm still waiting on the defensive player of the year, first team all defense. I want to see that. I want to see Giannis sit down and guard somebody. I want to see Giannis actually have an impact on the defensive end. He has not shown that all series long. That's what I need to see out of Giannis.
That's how I feel. If you're not guarding him, like let's say Game 7, we're Saturday night, we're in the fourth quarter, we're in a tight game, right? And let's hope we are, because that'd be a lot of fun to see. And if that's going on and it's KD, you're Giannis, if you're not like waving off everybody else, I got this. I've got this guy now. These are the possessions that matter. If you're not doing that, then you should take those trophies off your shelf and give them back. Because that's how you earn those trophies. Yes, I know it's voted in the regular season, but that's what the whole league. Players are watching this saying the same damn thing. You know it, Perk. Players are watching those games wondering, why is Giannis guarding Landry Shamet? You need to be guarding Kevin Durant so your team can win a Game 7 and move on in the postseason.
I don't know about that one, man.
All right.
I got to have him on both ends of the floor. If I try to put him predominantly on KD, I lose that offensive energy that we need, because Chris Middleton can't win the game and score all the points by himself. I understand he had a great game at home, but when Chris Middleton goes on the road, things change for him a little bit. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful thinking that Chris Middleton can continue to be Batman in these situations.
Okay, well, let's talk a little about Batman and Robin, because Giannis and Chris Middleton become the second pair of teammates to score 30 points and have 10 rebounds in multiple games within a playoff series. The other two to do that, Kobe and Shaq in the 2002 Western Conference Finals. We'll debate Batman and Robin for that one maybe another day. All right, guys, let's move on to our next topic in the NBA. Game 6 in the ATL tonight with the 76ers on the brink of elimination. The Hawks feeling nothing but confident after pulling off a come-from-behind victory in the last two games. The deficit 26 points in the third in Game 5. Now, 4 of the 5 largest blown postseason leads in the last 2 years have been by Doc Rivers' coach teams. Okay, here we go. Doc Rivers' coach teams have also lost 10 series in which they led the series at some point. That's already 2 more than any other coach in NBA history. Now, as a note for tonight's game, Joel Embiid, again listed as questionable. He has been listed as questionable for every game this series, but has yet to miss any time. But just a little note ahead of that game. Okay, so 76ers, Hawks, who was the most important player in this game?
It's Ben Simmons. In a number of reasons. He's got to score. He can't be afraid to shoot. Can't be afraid to go to the cup and get fouled and go through the free throw line. Yeah, they're going to foul him in the fourth quarter, but he has to knock down the free throws. That way he can stay on the floor and play defense on Trae Young or whoever he needs to guard, Lou Williams, whoever it may be. That is why he has the size, the length, the athletic ability to be able to do those things. He cannot afford to be afraid to shoot the damn basketball. You can't be afraid to do that. We're not asking him to be 20 or 20, but we're asking him to just shoot the ball. Give a reason for them to foul you other than just grabbing you in the fourth quarter. He is the most important dude in this game. It's not Joel Embiid. It's not Trae Young. It's not Capello. It is Ben Simmons, and I think he would say the same thing.
You know what? You're right. It is Ben Simmons. For the Hawks, he's the most important player for Atlanta because when we get to the fourth quarter, you know what's going to happen. They're going to keep testing him, and it's not really just testing him physically anymore. It's testing this right now. We're learning a lot about Ben Simmons and how much he likes to be challenged, or maybe not likes it. The most important player is Joel Embiid. And I didn't even bother to look up the on-off, plus-minus analytics and all that stuff to prove that when Embiid's on the court, the Sixers are just the better team in this series. Not worth it. The eye test tells you everything. When he's on the floor, they're a better team. When he comes off the floor and Dwight Howard comes in, that's when the Hawks make their push. These last 2 comebacks have been about the fact that Embiid could not be on the floor. I know, you'll tell me he missed a ton of shots in the second half, that he couldn't finish a layup in Game 5 or Game 4. I understand that did happen. But in Game 5, when Embiid was on the floor, the plane was balanced. When he came off the floor, turbulence. They can't afford that. They've got to manage his minutes early so he's on the floor for most of what they can in this game so they can survive.
Well, you know what? I can't believe the disrespect that I'm constantly getting when it comes down to Ice Trae and Trae Young. He's the most important player in Game 6. Club ATL's gonna be rocking. Ice Trae is gonna be in the building. And mind I tell y'all, is look, listen. In Game 5, right? Game 5, in Game 4, Ice Trae took over that game by dropping, 18 dimes? He shot 9 for 26 from the field. He had 25 points, but he facilitated for others. Did you see what he did in Game 5? In Game 5, he came out and he had a 37-piece wing dinner when it mattered the most. Trae Young has been flying under the radar, and this is the problem that I have. Everybody want to talk about Ben Simmons and him not shooting free throws, and rightfully so, Key. You're right about that, because if I'm Doc Rivers, I'm thinking about maybe sitting him down in the fourth quarter, especially if he's not giving me nothing on the defensive end. But the way that Trae Young has been dominating this series and has been flying under the radar has been beyond disturbing to me, because if this was with Luka Doncic in the same position, they would be ready to put a statue out there somewhere in front of the building. But Trae Young, he gets no type of acknowledgement. He gets no type of credit. This Hawks team has overachieved and beyond. This Hawks team is one game from going to the Eastern Conference Finals. One game and knocking off the number 1 seed. This man has been flat out balling all this year. He was an all-star snub. He was an all-NBA snub. Somebody got to put some respect on this man's name, and I'm here to take up for him today.
You know, Big Perk, the same way we talk about Giannis, guarding KD, this is why I say Ben Simmons. You say that Trae Young is the most important guy in this game. Ben Simmons is the most important because he needs to take Trae Young out. And if he's not on the floor, that's not going to be done by nobody else. So that's why he's the most important to me.
Well, Keith, listen to this. You remember when you just told me about my All-NBA, he is who he is? Ben Simmons is on that list, okay? He is who he is. And what's happening is that if he's not locking in on Trae Young, and Trae Young is able to maneuver and get down the court and get wherever he wants and facilitate, causing the defense to collapse because he's blowing by him, then he's a liability. Because one thing we all know, he's not going to give you anything on the offensive end. Forget making free throws, forget making jump shots. Ben Simmons is not even making layups and dunks right now. Mentally, he's just not there. So I'm looking at it right now, and I know what Ben Simmons could do defensively. But right now, mentally, he looks mentally drained. He looks emotionally drained, and I don't know if he can recover.
Matisse Thybulle can still guard. You can still have him out on the floor, and he can actually knock down a shot. I don't think that's a major issue at that point, but Doc's going to face, and he might have to face it in this game. And I'll tell you what, you wonder about this team mentally? What if they do, the Sixers I'm talking about, take another big lead? Yes, you're on the road, and that building got loud. You got to give it credit to the ATL, to those fans at State Farm Arena. Like, they have been fantastic as a home crowd, and you haven't been able to say that a lot about Atlanta sports and their fandom. They don't really come out for their teams historically, but they really have for this team. They love this team. So there's going to be momentum in the building, but if Ben Simmons is getting caught up in it and he can't make a free throw and he's maybe checking out, Doc's going to have to take him out of the game. That's a tough decision to make, but you got to do what's best for the team.
The road could be in his favor, though, being on the road.
We will see if he even, we won't even talk about making a shot, if he even attempts to take a shot in the fourth quarter, because Ben Simmons hasn't even attempted a shot in the fourth quarter for the past 2 games. So we'll see what happens. That we know ATL is going to show out for this game. Okay, Perk, you're coming back with us. But before we leave, can we get a carry on?
Yeah, carry the hell on, except for you, Charlie. Everybody else, carry the hell on.
All right, well, we have a lot more to get to here on First Take. Luka Doncic making it very clear he's unhappy in Dallas, and also everything unfolding in Big D. So the timing is very interesting. We'll have the latest plus reaction as First Take rolls on. And speaking of unhappy stars, the Aaron Rodgers situation growing more awkward by the day. Is it time for the Packers to just get now officially the 11th national holiday? And here on First Take, we'll be honoring the day throughout the entire show. All right, yesterday at his final news conference before training camp, Packer coach Matt LaFleur said the team will have one plan on offense when training camp opens next month, even if Aaron Rodgers is not there, leaving second-year player Jordan Love as quarterback 1. So is Love the team's new guy? Well, LaFleur can answer that one.
Do you need to have 2 separate plans for camp? One if Aaron's here, one if he's not?
No, we'll have one plan. We've kind of pretty much laid that out. Just going to fine tune some things over the next few weeks, and just in terms of the logistics of our schedule and whatnot. But we've got what we feel is a pretty good blueprint. It's the same message it's been all the time. You're only one play away, so you always have to prepare like you're the starter.
Okay, and now let's welcome an NFL reporter and my amazing, beautiful, intelligent co-host on First Take, Her Take, Kimberly A. Martin. How'd that sound?
Hi, Charlie. Hello, guys.
Good to see you, darling. Okay, we are very happy to have you here. We're going to start with Keyshawn, though, because we got an important question for you.
Yeah,
Should the Packers get rid of Rodgers right now, Key?
Absolutely. They should have got rid of him yesterday. And not because he's a bad guy. It's because it's going to be a distraction throughout the entire season. You know, and I know. He has a problem with them. They have a problem with him. This whole message of, they can figure it out. Don't worry about it. No, they cannot figure it out. Too many shots have been fired back and forth between the two. 1 week Mark Murphy goes. The next week Aaron Rodgers goes. 1 week Mark Murphy goes. Aaron Rodgers sends out little cryptic tweets or whatever the case may be, trolling everybody. It is not a great relationship. He out from the outset. Aaron Rodgers mentioned it. He sat down with Kenny Mayne and mentioned it. He talks about it all the time. And it's clear that they mentally have probably moved on from Aaron Rodgers, but yet and still they want to be petty and hold on to him and try to see if he folds which I don't believe he will. So the best thing to do is line up with a Super Bowl ready team minus Aaron Rodgers and hope and pray that Jordan Love can give you enough to get back to the NFC Championship game, because I believe he can with the team around him if he does all the right things. And now let Aaron Rodgers go to the Miami Dolphins or the Denver Broncos via trade, give him his wish so he can go help them try to win a championship. Why hold him back? You might as well just let it go, because he does not want to be there. Instead of trying to turn the fan base on him and everybody on him, just give him his wish.
Such a typical player, always taking the player side of things instead of the business side of things. What's good for business is to hold on to this guy, because he is your greatest asset on the field and off the field.
What good is the asset if you can't use it?
Oh, I'll explain it, because if things don't go well, even more pressure gets put on Aaron Rodgers. Even more. You think he's a guy that no matter where he is, whether it's on a beach in Hawaii or whether it's somewhere in Colorado on a ski lift, he's going to hear everything about what the Packers are doing while he's sitting around collecting money to do nothing. You don't think he's going to pay attention to what people are saying and thinking about him and his legacy and what he leaves there in Green Bay? He talked about it, right? The culture, it's about the people. He sounded like a politician.
He's not coming
He's listening.
in.
Rabbit ears, and you know it.
Alan, he's not
I'm
coming
going to make
in.
you sit and simmer in it. And if we are winning, then you'll hear about how we're better without you. And then I can move you. But I can move you when it matters. And you know when it matters most in the NFL? Not before training camp. When I already know what the draft pick's going to be, or several of them, that I'm going to get for you. Why would I do it now? Why would I do you a favor? I'm not here to help you. You're here to help me. That's why I pay you.
You're getting it later, though.
So, well, I am going to get it later, one way or another, but I'm not doing it now, because I'm not doing you any favors, because you did.
Maximize the value now. Why wait and hold on it and be petty?
How can you maximize value when you look like you're in a desperate situation right now, and teams are going to sit back and offer you something that is nowhere near the worth of an MVP. An MVP has never been traded like this. You never have had this. There's no precedent. There's no price on this. You don't have a standard. So how could you possibly get the best value for him now?
All teams want to go into training camp with their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that value in the middle of the season. The Denver Broncos
Who said middle of the season?
The Denver Broncos aren't giving you that value in the middle of the season.
I'd rather test your metal.
And if you wait a year later, he's a year older.
It's okay. He's also got no tread on the tire.
It just doesn't.
He's rested. Maybe he's done some TB12. Surfed a little bit. Got a nice tan. He's going to feel good.
Now.
He'll be just
hosted
fine.
Some Jeopardy.
Whatever it is, hosting Jeopardy. He'll be a little smarter. The bottom line is that if you're not playing for me,
reporters,
you're not playing for anybody. Not until I figure out my situation.
Hey, Key, watch your mouth. Listen, here's the bottom line. If the Packers were to trade Aaron Rodgers now, that tells me they don't know what they're doing. They have no plan. They had no plan. That's why we're here, because they clearly believed in Jordan Love so much that they were willing to move up. Not get the okay from Aaron, at least include him in that conversation. They believed in Jordan Love. The Packers are the only team that's seen Jordan Love. No one knows what Jordan Love is. So I've seen people say, they should just trade Jordan Love, get him out of here, say, Aaron, look what we did. If they were to trade Jordan Love, Aaron would probably sit there and be like, see, that's the dumbest thing you guys could do, because you would create all this friction for no reason. The Packers have to have conviction. And Alan mentioned, you don't want to set a precedent. Here's the thing. The Packers have really fumbled the bag. They have botched this so badly. But to trade him now, when you dug your feet in the sand and said, oh, we're not going to trade him before the draft. Oh, no, we're not answering any calls. No, don't bother. Guys, don't bother calling us. We're not going to let him go. Okay, but they would say no then, and now want to trade him? If they did that, that to me would be the dumbest thing ever. Because before the draft,
you're holding out hope.
Here's the thing. You got the Heisman.
Oh, Lord have mercy. She gave me the Auntie I'm sorry, Auntie Kim. I'm sorry, Auntie Kim.
When New York City start doing like this, it's time to settle down. But when you've gone through free agency, we've gone through the draft. We are literally about to start this season. Make him sit there. If he doesn't want to play for you, make him sit there And then next offseason, you do something. Like, you got to get something. And the Packers had a chance to ask for a king's ransom, and they could have gotten it. Now all these teams still would want Aaron, but they've invested so much in draft picks. Teams that needed a QB drafted guys, and now the Packers would turn around and say, "Oh, hey, so we're just gonna trade Aaron after all of this." I'd be upset for Aaron. I'd be upset.
You move him now because you're going to maximize the value. If you would holding out hope, flying to go see him in
that doesn't make
California,
sense.
because you're flying in the offseason to go beg and plead with him, you were not going to put him on a trading back before the draft because you were hoping and praying that he would come in. They're at the point now where they realize he ain't coming back. So if you hold on to him to the end of the season, he gets a year older. The Denver Broncos signed Teddy Bridgewater or traded for Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
They didn't draft a quarterback. They need him in the most desperate way.
So they'll have to wait.
Drew Lock, they'll give you back Drew Lock, maybe some other stuff. Let him go to Denver. He wants to be out west. Let him go to Denver.
You made the argument for me. You just did. The Denver Broncos, boy, they're desperate for him. Okay, you'll stay desperate because I can't. And Kimberly, I'm going to say it again. You repeated it, and it's something that has to hold true. And if I'm Roger Goodell and I'm all these owners, I'm thinking the same thing because that's a team that doesn't have a owner. So you're a little worried about how that business is going to be handled. What is the value of a contract if a player can now say, I don't want to play here anymore, I'm just going to stay home until you trade me? What's the value of the contract anymore? And what precedent does that set if you give him what he wants right away? I'll make you sit. I'll make you wait.
All the time for star players. That's nothing new.
All the time?
All the time for stars.
For an entire season.
Get what they want in professional sports.
Right. How'd it work out for Le'Veon Bell? It did not work out well.
Stars get what they want.
At the time,
stars get what they want in the end. Le'Veon Bell
he'll get it in
got
the end,
what
but
he wanted in New York, which was his money.
It doesn't make sense for me from a business perspective to trade him now. No sense. Because I will give him the entire season to reconsider. And if he doesn't,
all the sense in the world because you can get more for him now.
What are you getting for him now? Everything's gone. I don't know what the picks are going to be. I'll trade him to a team that then goes to a championship game and the draft pick is useless.
Well, that's what any team that he goes to, like the Denver Broncos.
I'd rather have the pick before I trade. Well, I'll give you the pick then you get it.
I completely hear Key on star players should get. I'm all for Aaron Rodgers trying to maximize whatever leverage he has, knowing that whether I play or I don't play, I'm Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Famer. I'm good. And the Packers don't know what they are without him. But at the end of the day, Packers have to stay firm. They have to because they've let it get to this point.
Well, if they stay firm, then they're going to lose out a lot. They'll be getting a second-round pick for Aaron Rodgers in the end of the year.
You'll see.
I think it sounds like the Packers are on the losing end of the deal regardless of how it plays out.
That's about right.
Kimberly, I appreciate you. Thank you for holding these two accountable for everything that they said. Thank you for staying firm and
thank you
for getting in here with the hand motions because, I know once you get to that level what it means.
He looked over.
All right. We will see you later. Keep it moving right here on First Take. We got to get back to the NBA because Paul George silenced those haters in Game 5. Can he do it again tonight and completely shed his image as a guy who has a choking problem? One of these guys has a very bold take. More First Take after the break. Rick Carlisle and Donnie Nelson are out in Dallas. Luka Doncic's future with the Mavs has started to come into question. Interesting timing as he is eligible now to sign a Supermax extension this summer. And according to The Athletic, Zion Williamson and his family are not happy with how things have been going in New Orleans. Next season, Zion will be playing for his fourth coach in a 4-year span since he graduated from high school. And Devin Booker and the Suns are going to send the fan involved in an altercation with Nuggets fans in Denver a signed Booker jersey and provide him with tickets to a conference finals game. I want to get into a fight at the game.
Yeah.
I want to get some free stuff.
Rewarded for that.
Okay, now with Kawhi Leonard out indefinitely, Playoff P took it to the next level in Wednesday's Game 5 against the Jazz, leading his team to take the series lead at 3-2. He delivered a superstar performance, 37 points, a playoff career high, 16 rebounds, and 5 assists. Tonight, he must do it again. Okay, before we get into it, Donovan Mitchell, he is listed as questionable for tonight's game, but let's focus on Paul George right now. Han, we'll start with you here. What would a series win for Paul George's legacy?
It wouldn't really, it's getting out of the second round is not a legacy thing for Paul George because he's done it before. In fact, twice before when he was the main guy with the Indiana Pacers. Played the Heatles, the Miami Heat with LeBron and Wade and Chris Bosh in back-to-back years in 13 and 14, and they took him in 6 games and won 7 in the other. They got to conference finals, so he's been there already. I don't know how this really serves his legacy. What it would, though, to me, is sort of put an end, not necessarily because it's really funny, the whole playoff P or playoff L, depending on how he does in the postseason. Maybe it does impact that, where we stop having fun with that and start taking him seriously again, like we did early in his career, before the injuries and everything else, where we looked at him as a budding superstar with the Pacers. He's since bounced around a little bit, since been through some stuff. We know last year in the bubble, he was going through some things, mental health he was talking about, just being depressed because he was in the bubble. Well, here he's in a situation now where he was supposed to be the 1B. And now 1A, Kawhi Leonard, is out. And what he showed us when he can be the 1A is he can still be that guy. And he had a huge performance. Now he's on the verge of trying to win the series against a Utah team that is going to be all focused on him. It would just, to me, bring us back to remembering that PG-13, yeah, he's still that guy. And he can certainly do it. But legacy? No. If we're going to talk about legacy with him, he's got to get to a finals. Maybe get a ring on the finger.
I think it's huge. It changes the entire narrative about the way that you have thought recently about Paul George. I think when you, especially in Los Angeles, remember, he wanted this. He wanted to come to LA. They gave up a handsome ransom at the request of Kawhi Leonard to go get Paul George. He was supposed to be the 1B, like you mentioned. Now he's the 1A. We've seen him in the past, no question, in Indy take the team to the Eastern Conference Final, but not under this stress, not under the pressures of Los Angeles, not under the pressures of failing in the bubble after they assembled a team and a coach that was fired based on the request of a couple star players, allegedly, I don't want to mention any names, but Doc Rivers is no longer there. They asked for Ty Lue to be the head coach. So all this weight at Staples Center is on the back of Paul George. You had an amazing game in Utah. Now you go to LA, and tonight everybody's looking for you to end it, to take the Clippers further than they've ever been in the history of that organization. So it is going to say a lot for his legacy.
The cardboard cutout's going to be gone because I heard they're going full capacity now. They finally can get all the people in the building, and that's going to be important, I think, for them as a group. But, you know, I mean, you just told me yesterday that the Clippers, not really LA. That's not really LA. The Lakers are LA.
They got their own LA fans.
What pressure, though?
They're LA Clipper fans. Yeah. They're LA Clipper fans, though.
Okay.
Just that little.
You mean they're a small market team playing in a big market? Is that
very small market team?
Okay. So what pressure are we talking about?
The pressure of the Clipper fan base, whatever 2,000 they got.
Clipper Darrell and a couple of friends.
Clipper Darrell and a couple of friends. That is pressure, though. It's not the Los Angeles Laker pressure, but it's still pressure. They still are covered as a major team in Los Angeles. They're still covered all over the country because of the two guys that they have in Paul George along with Kawhi Leonard. So the eyeballs still are there to see what the Clippers are going to do.
How about this? Legacy, now Paul George. How about for Ty Lue? What does it mean for Ty Lue if he can coach this team to a finals?
Well, what I would say is it lifts, it's not pressure, but it lifts that stigma off of Ty Lue's back that the only reason he won is because of LBJ. Everybody looks at that and says, oh, he just was there. LeBron really coaching the team.
Right.
It removes that. The adjustments that he made in Utah, the things that he's doing, drawing up defensively, offensively, getting people open, that's Ty Lue. That's not LeBron James. So if they go to a final, just go to a final.
Right.
They don't have to win it. Just go to a final.
It does a lot for Ty Lue. Really
it does a lot for Ty Lue. It takes that stench off of his back. Rightfully so.
And it should, yeah.
So in order to prove something, you need to get to the finals, not just the conference finals. Because they
for Ty Lue and for Ty
Paul
Lue.
George too. Paul George.
Yeah, Paul George too, because I'm assuming Paul George is going to be by himself the rest of the way.
More than likely. We don't really have as much information as we'd like about Kawhi Leonard, but you know there have been rumors, and we won't get into those about the extent of his injury. But it doesn't look like he'll be back anytime soon. But George does join Kevin Durant. He's one of only 2 players this postseason to post a 35-15 in 5 games. So
got to do it again.
If he can step it up tonight.
One more time.
Okay, real quick predictions on who's going to win.
Utah has to find a way. to win this game. You are the number one
That
seed.
ain't what she asked you.
Yeah, just okay. So you.
Yeah, I'm going with Utah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to believe in them.
I hate to do it. I'm going to take the Clippers.
All right, all right. We've
Take
got a
note, LA.
disagreement here.
Keyshawn,
No, they already
Okay,
know.
let's
He
keep it
is
moving,
cheering for the
everybody.
Clippers
we still
tonight.
have a lot more to
Lies,
get
lies,
to.
lies, lies,
Las
lies.
Vegas, they're talking. They have the Bucks as a 1-point favorite on the road in Brooklyn, Game 7. Find out if Big Perk is also picking Giannis and the Bucks when we return. Plus, might Zion's unhappiness in New Orleans result in him being traded? One of our guys thinks so. Who? Well, you'll find out in just a New York minute. Stay with us.
Never seen in my life. That's my brother. We compete, we fight every game. We're gonna fight again, Game 7.
With everything we've dealt and been through, we got the second seed for this particular reason, and we just got to go out there and hoop at home, one game.
You know what I want? I want to hear the words that are exchanged between PJ Tucker and Kevin Durant
Mic 'em up.
during the game. That would be
mic 'em up. Yeah.
That would be interesting. Okay, Big Perk back here with us. Han, we're going to start with you here. Who has the edge in Game 7, the Nets or the Bucks?
Well, the Bucks do. I mean the Bucks. The Nets do because they are the home team. They have that advantage. And when you have your star is going to play no matter where, on the road, at home. That doesn't matter. And they've got two of them, even if James Harden is 100%. But what matters is the role players. The role players are what matters in a series like this in a Game 7. Who steps up? Who gives you what Jeff Green gave you in Game 5? Again, a game at home. I'm looking at Joe Harris. Here's a guy that has not had a great series. In fact, shooting 32% from three. That's awful for a guy like him who shot almost 48% from three during the regular season. By the way, at home during the regular season, 50% from three. So he's more comfortable at home shooting on his home gym, his rims. That's what he likes. And even in this series, as poorly as he's shooting overall in the series, he's 39% at home from three-point range. So I'm looking at Joe Harris and I'm wondering, is this the game where he kind of gets it going, where he gets into rhythm, where he locks in and he could become that X factor like Jeff Green was in Game 5? That's why you give the advantage to the home team all the time. Vegas does it all the time, no matter what. You never see a pick 'em unless it's just one team is way better than the other. But this is pretty evenly matched. You got to go with the home team. The Nets have that. They'll also have a raucous crowd. There's no roar like a New York roar. It's going to matter in this game. And for KD, it'll be his kind of real first experience, too, when it comes to wanting to play in New York, in the Mecca. Well, here's your opportunity to do it in a Game 7.
The Mecca.
Well, I mean, it's not the Garden, but it's still New York.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question? Because soon as Allen started talking, at first I was listening to him when he said the Bucks, and then he made the mistake and said the next. I took my earpiece out my ear because I didn't want to hear that. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes. Listen, I get it. I understand. The question was who has the edge in the game? Is it the Nets or is it the Bucks, Perk?
And this is a no-brainer, right? It's the Milwaukee Bucks. Look, the Brooklyn Nets are not healthy. We're sitting up here watching James Harden. He's skipping and walking up and down the basketball court. He cannot guard a parked car right now. We can't move laterally. We're seeing that, and they're not healthy. Right now, the Milwaukee Bucks, they have a healthy lineup. They have Giannis. They have Chris Middleton. They have Drew Holiday. They have Brook Lopez. They have everything that they need and more. The only thing about the Milwaukee Bucks is that they don't play smart basketball. But far as talent-wise, they have more talent than the Brooklyn Nets right now due to injuries. And so when I'm looking at this matchup right now, Giannis has found his way. He knows that he's not going to settle in a Game 7. He's going to attack the basket. Chris Middleton, he sees what he has to do. And it's destined for Drew Holiday to have a big night. I love what Budenholzer has done for us moving Giannis in certain parts of the game to the center position and spreading the floor. By the way, PJ Tucker is not backing down anytime soon. I'm not saying Kevin Durant can't get another 50-piece wing dinner spicy in his sleep, but it's not going to be easy. And just think about the win that the Brooklyn Nets got and what KD had to do in that win. He had to have one of the greatest performances in his NBA career, the greatest performance in his NBA career to overpower this Milwaukee Bucks team.
Milwaukee on the road in Brooklyn. Role players play well at home. And when you think about it, Perk, who are the role players for the Nets? Green, Brown, Blake Griffin. All those guys play well at home and not on the road. And Kevin Durant, yeah, he had to go 49, whatever, 17, 10, whatever the numbers were. And James Harden was coming just basically as a cardboard cutout to hang around, to draw attention. But James Harden got better in 6. The Bucks didn't take advantage of him at all in Game 6. Even though he was out there limping like you said, they failed to communicate that. They refused to take advantage both on the offense and the defensive end. So now, a day rest, I would assume he's a little bit better because it seemed that way in Game 6 in Milwaukee. Now, when you look at it, you say, well, Middleton was cooking in Game 6. At home, he's on the road in a hostile environment. He's never been in this situation, and we know how he plays on the road versus at home. And you say Drew Holiday, he's going to finally show up. Well, it's been a minute now. Drew Holiday, we can't. What's the famous word? Witness
better
protection.
Late than never.
Oh.
We haven't been able to find him. They gave him 40 million. We haven't been able to find him. So when you look at it, it's all day long the Brooklyn Nets. Just period. It's the Brooklyn Nets.
No, it's not all day long nothing, Key. And here's why. When you go back and look at Game 5 in particular, who had control of that game? The Milwaukee Bucks. If I remember, they were up 17 or 19 points. Okay, they were dominating. Then they went away from what they were doing to get them to that point, meaning attacking the paint, owning the paint, not making dumb passes, not making dumb decisions. Like we saw, one possession in Game 5, Drew Holiday went by James Harden, finished on the left side of the basket. The very next time down the court, they gave him the same isolation. What did he do? He pulled up for a 3-point shot. That's not going to happen. They're going to be in attack mode. Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant, but James Harden is nowhere close to being 100%. They don't have Kyrie Irving. And if you're going to sit up here and you're going to tell me you're going to bank on Joe Harris to deliver in Game 7, then you lost the argument already.
Oh, did I? You're the guy who told me that they're going to make the adjustments they need to make. Which team do you trust more, Perk? The Bucks? Confidence from demonstrated performance. The Bucks have demonstrated that they can't perform in a big spot. I trust the Nets. That's what.
Yeah, Perky, you said the Bucks aren't a smart team. Smart teams on the road don't add up. That's why they surrendered that 17-point lead. Not smart.
What you mean? You learn from your mistakes. Those same mistakes that they had in Game 5, that same mistakes that they had in Game 5, Key, that they lost their lead with by having dumb turnovers and taking ill-advised 3-point shots. When they got that lead in Game 6, they didn't do those same things. Giannis didn't start settling for jumpers. He kept attacking. So did Drew Holiday. This is what I'm trying to tell y'all. And again, like I tell Stephen A. and Max, okay? I'm giving y'all free game right now on national television.
Man, this is our show right now. We don't talk about Stephen A. and Max no more right now. Next week, you can talk to them on Monday.
This I'm just telling you.
This us right now.
That's fine. That's
All
fine.
Right. We got to respect it. I mean, it will be interesting. The Nets, they seem spent. The superstars seemed exhausted at the end of Game 6. But meanwhile, the Bucks, they really haven't been able to perform on the road. They haven't even won a game on the road this series yet. So Game 7 would be their first, and it would be, of course, the most important one. So we will leave that there because we had some breaking news earlier this morning, as first reported by our Adrian Wojnarowski. According to sources of the Boston Celtics, they're trading Kemba Walker in their 2021 first-round pick to OKC for a package that includes Al Horford. As a result, Boston getting financial flexibility, moving off the $73 million owed to Walker, and OKC now has 3 first-round picks in July's draft. So, Han, where do the Celtics now rank in the East?
I need to see, first of all, where they go with a coach, experience-wise, and everything else to fit. Yeah. I also need to see what their point guard situation is going to be. Is it Evan Fournier? Are they going in that direction, or are they going to try to find someone else? You know, you could call this addition by subtraction. I think it might be addition by addition. Perk mentioned this earlier in the show, and he's 100% right. Al Horford and what he did mean not just to the team on the floor defensively. They have missed him since he is gone. They didn't want to pay him. They thought he was getting old, but also impact in that locker room. What were the criticisms about the Celtics? It was about a lack of leadership, a lack of someone who had a voice, who was able to keep that team motivated, on point. Too many times they were a very inconsistent team this season, an anomaly. So many times losing games, sometimes by 30 at home, thinking to yourself, how could they be losing by 30 at home? But it was happening. Maybe they get a little bit of that back, and maybe Brad Stevens recognized that. So where do they rank? They should always be, because of those two players in Tatum and Brown, a top 5, if not top 4 team in the East. They should return there.
Where are they going? I don't know. Vocal leadership is important. Yes, Al Horford could be that guy, but in the end, it usually comes from your star players, Brown, Tatum, or maybe even your head coach, which is extremely important. A guy like a Sam Cassell who's been there, done that, who understands what winning is all about, how to teach. Maybe they get in play for a Chauncey Billups late. Who knows? Maybe there's a Rick Carlisle that's sitting out there for them. But the head coach is so important in the development of a team. You can't just decide that you're going to put star players together without a head coach that can see the vision. Yeah, they got rid of the money with Kemba Walker, but another important part, who's going to be the point guard? Who's going to be the facilitator at all times? Yeah, you can say Tatum can bring the ball up or Jaylen Brown can bring the ball up, but then they become ball dominant at that point in time. They don't run an offense. Now you're looking at a situation where the window could potentially close on you. Maybe the window has closed on them, and just because they have 2 star players, they're still hitting the reset button. Even if you don't want to believe it, the reset button has been hit with 2 star players because they traded another one, and the coach decided to go a different direction, as well as the general manager, Danny Ainge.
Well, I have to respectfully disagree, Key, and I hate it because we've been disagreeing all since the show started. Okay, that's the first thing. But second of all, listen, I'm going with they're going to be a top 5 team in the Eastern Conference. You know why? Because when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are healthy, they're arguably a top 5, if not a top 3 duo in the NBA. And you can go check the numbers. Here it is. They didn't really get a fair opportunity this season to play with each other. You had Jason Tatum, who was dealing with COVID issues, who was out. You had Jaylen Brown, who was dealing with knee issues, wrist injuries, and things to that nature. So we only got to see a small sample size of this dynamic duo together. But when they're on the court, you're talking about a position that general managers and coaches are begging or looking for on a day-to-day basis, that wing position, that combo guard position. Both of these guys have 0 flaws offensively. Both of those guys buckle down when it comes down to the defensive side of things. Both of these guys are under the age of 25. Jason Tatum has already arrived. Jaylen Brown continues to keep getting better every single year. Jaylen underappreciated Brown. And look, this Boston Celtics team with another few minor additions, they might be the top team in the Eastern Conference come next year.
Sound like a guy who played for the Celtics to me.
Oh, interesting you say that. Okay, well, let's leave it there because we have a lot more to get to. There are some reports out there, and Kirk, you're sticking with us for this next discussion. Zion and his family may not be pleased with the Pelicans. How might this shake out? Well, Alan Hahn peeks into his crystal ball. You have one of those? That's when we get back.
I just bought one on the street.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't learn about Juneteenth until I was about 30 years old, which used to make
Williamson on another team. Whew. Okay, we've got some drama stirring. Now, you've seen Carry On with Mr. Kendrick Perkins. Well, Hahn over here, he's going to take over today and give us his take on Zion Williamson. Hahn, the floor is yours, and the title, very appropriate. I will let you introduce.
Carry on.
Carry on. Yes, Perk, all due respect, but thank you. All right, so they say we either learn from history or be doomed to repeat it. So let's see if we can find a pattern here. In the season after New Orleans was forced to trade an unhappy Chris Paul, the team drafted Anthony Davis. In the season after the team drafted Zion Williamson, they traded an unhappy Anthony Davis. So guess who is reportedly unhappy now? Think about how this relationship began. with a blank stare on draft lottery nights when it was revealed that the Pelicans would get the number 1 pick. Then came a story about how he and his Duke teammate R.J. Barrett often talk about teaming up one day in the NBA. Then there was how he gushed about playing at Madison Square Garden. Oh, by the way, that's where R.J. Barrett plays. Now comes the report that his family would prefer he play elsewhere. Is that somewhere else, New York? Of course it is! So what's in it for you? David Griffin, valuable assets the Knicks haven't had in years. 5 first-round picks over the next 3 drafts. Start there. I'm giving you an offer. You shouldn't refuse. You can be stubborn and insist you're going to build a winner around Zion. We're going to make him happy. How'd that work with CP3? How'd that work with AD? It's not going to work with Zion. Face it. He's just not that into you. Carry the hell on.
Oh, you never want to hear that. All right, carry the hell on. So, Big Perk, what's your response?
You know what? I actually didn't think it was half bad. Carry on, but you got to say it a little bit aggressive. But listen, let me show you how to say something when you got to end it with carry the hell on, okay? Because here's the problem that I have, and this is the problem that I have in all the sports when guys and their parents, uncles, grandparents always step outside of their lane, all right? This is that man's job. Not once did this come out of Zion Williamson's mouth, but it came out of his family member's mouth, his stepfather. Hey, fall back. Nobody is interrupting with your work. Let that man live his job. Let that man do what he do. He's still going to buy you a house. He's still going to buy you a car. He's still going to take care of you financially. Fall back. And I'm seeing it as a trend too much where parents, grandparents, uncles, aunties are stepping out of bounds. This is entertainment to the rest of the world, but these are these professional athletes' livelihoods. These are their jobs. Zion Williamson has to deal with this media attention. Zion Williamson has to answer these questions. So with that being said, carry the hell on.
What do you guys think about that, about Zion's family getting involved in this and not letting him speak for himself?
I don't have a problem with it at all because it's the influence, right? It's managers, it's agents, and it's family members. That's the reality of professional sports. This is not, a player is not going to step out there and say, well, I want to get out of here. I'm tired of having 3 coaches in 3 years, 3 new head coaches. I don't want to do this anymore. Players aren't going to do that. They're going to leak it they're going to have a conversation with whoever their handlers are, their influencers are, and they're going to allow them to push the information to the germ spreaders. That's just the reality of it. I mean, that's what it is, Perk. You know and I know. That's the reality of it. Yeah, he may be unhappy in New Orleans. He'll never say it. He'll allow everybody else to have that conversation. Now, is it New York? Is it Chicago? Is it Boston? Is it L.A.? Like,
Utah.
where does he land at the end of the day? The best fit would probably be the Knicks, based on his former teammate and the snack, crackle, pop that the city gives you. If he's a marketer's dream, why wouldn't you want to be in New York if you think you can do something that nobody else has been able to do in a very, 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 very long time in Madison Square Garden, which is deliver a championship.
The accents are great on this show.
Long, I understand.
Very, very, very long time.
Yes, it has been a long time. Why'd you look at me when you said germ spreaders, by the way? I take offense to that.
I'm looking straight ahead. You feel guilty.
I do feel guilty.
I just said germ spreaders.
That's what I did for a while there with, with notepad and everything else. But I always think this, though, Perk, where there's smoke, there's fire. Generally, a family member that would be authorized to say anything to a member of the media that, a member of the respected media would know when it's like, the third cousin who's like got something to say versus somebody pretty close to the situation that you would trust. Then I'm going with that story. No editor would ever let you write a story where it's the third cousin. No, you need to get a little more than that, get closer to him. So where there's smoke, there's fire on this one. New Orleans has a history, as I mentioned before, there's a history here where there seems to be the exit all the time of the star player that realizes I'm in the smallest market in the league. There's just only so much this franchise can do to build a champion or build a winner around me. And we all know with players like Chris Paul, with Anthony Davis, and also with Zion, You reach that status of being one of the greats in your league, they're going to ask you, well, when are you going to lead your team to a championship? The league expanded the playoffs to 20 teams. They added 10 teams to get in just so they can get Zion to get into a play-in, and they still couldn't get there. And now they're going to find another coach too?
Yeah, but Key and Alan, listen, I'm not disagreeing with y'all about, okay, if a guy want to move and I understand information get leaked out or whatever. But I'm telling you, I didn't watch so many scenarios and so many people just in the NBA alone throughout my career get ruined by their parents and by their others speaking out and doing things out of line. I watched careers get ruined, guys who had bright futures, but they couldn't control the outside noise. And I'm just giving a little word of advice, all right? The average year, and this not to Zion because he's different. He was the #1 pick. He's a superstar. But to all the other players out there that are not superstars, that are not all-stars, the average NBA career is 3.5 to 4 years. If you're trying to have longevity, if you're trying to have a long career, then there's certain ways you got to go about things. And my grandpa always used to tell me, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And you have to control the outside noise. I never, in my 14 years of playing, I was a role player. I never let my family come in and speak to the media and speak on something on my behalf. Because you know why? This ain't college. I'm not a young man. I'm not a boy in high school. I'm a grown man. I can control my destiny. I can control what I say to the media. All I'm saying is be careful, because I done saw and witnessed so many family members kill guys' careers by going outside their boxes.
That is very true, Perk. That can happen, but I think Zion's family's been a part of his entire career, whether it was helping him pick Duke in high school, whether it was helping him select his management crew, whatever the case may be. They've always been a part of that, so I don't see where that's going to all of a sudden go away because he's getting a little bit older. And you mentioned, Han, 2 players, AD as well as CP3, leaving a small market. Guess what both of them have in common? They both came to LA, which is a larger market. So yes, that tells me that these players in these small towns that could potentially be major superstars are looking for an exit to get to a big-time market.
And one thing we also learned, too, is that this is a generation of players that is used to selecting where they go. Where it comes to an AAU team, the parents are part of that conversation. What's best for him? Put him on this team. What's the best college program to get him into? That's where you go. And the one thing you don't control is what NBA team you go to and what situation that is. In some places you walk in and think, this is it. We had more at Duke. And that's where it gets concerning, because parents are used to being able to say what's best for my son. They can't in the NBA, but they're trying.
Well, look, now we just need to hear from Zion himself. We've already heard from his family members, supposedly, what he wants to do. Zion, I guess, would be the next person to speak up and really talk about what's on his mind and what he wants for his future in the NBA. Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Perk, you will be back with us. And you know what? The only thing better than Big Perk's analysis might be his pep talks. Have you gotten one of those before?